we love to see your faces, so please, if you feel comfortable, keep those cameras on so we can see you and feel like we're talking to real people instead of just screens. A special thanks to our sponsors, without whom this event wouldn't be possible: Bristol Myers Squibb, Amgen Oncology, Karyopharm Therapeutics, AbbVie, Adaptive Biotechnologies, Genentech, Oncopeptides, and Takeda Oncology. It is now my pleasure to briefly introduce Todd and Diane Kennedy. So this is a picture of them on top of a mountain, and I had the speaker notes up and they somehow disappeared and I can't bring them back. So Todd, you tell me what mountain this is on and what
you can see. Sure, that's on the top of Santiago Peak at Saddleback, also known as, and from there you can see Orange County, LA, San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, pretty much a good chunk of the SoCal region and the people represented on the call today.
Fitting picture for today's call. I love it. All right, and then we also have, as I mentioned earlier, Rosalind Height with us today. Rosalind is a caregiver for her husband, Richard, who was diagnosed with myeloma 6 years ago at the age of 39, so on the younger end. She has worked in healthcare for over 20 years as an occupational therapist. She brings her love and desire to educate and empower individuals to live fully as the director of the Myeloma Coach Program. She and her husband are the parents of 3 busy and active teenagers, and if you have the privilege of knowing Roz, you love her. She is just one of the kindest souls I've ever met in my life. So I'm really happy that we have Roz here to tell you more about the Myeloma Coach Program later on in our meeting. As I mentioned, we also have Sally here with us today. Sally is a myeloma coach, and I asked Sally for a bio a while back and she wrote it in first person, and I just need to read it in first person. Obviously, I'm not Sally, but I love how Sally phrases things, so I'm going to read it from Sally's point of view. She says, "Luckily, I was diagnosed with Lambda light chain multiple myeloma almost by accident. My orthopedic surgeon discovered bone nibbling after a CT scan after complaining of shin splints for over 2 months. She is a 76, I think now, because she had a birthday-year-old widow living in Santa Barbara. And after induction and a stem cell transplant, she is in stringent complete response and is MRD negative, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sally." "In my previous life," she says, "after college and a dual degree in biology and chemistry, I have been an IBM programmer, purchasing agent for a government contractor, director of material of a large international manufacturing company, and later vice president of operations for the same company. I thrive on information and research. I want to know why, how, and when for most problems presented to me. I enjoy charts, graphs, and writing project-directed articles. For fun, especially in her years of lockdown that she has now experienced, she says, I enjoy reading and baking, which is a new love, and preparing things I have never tried before. My neighbors and friends now ask what's next, as I don't usually eat what I bake. I'd be big as an elephant. I enjoyed my introduction to the Myeloma Crowder Cure Hub, as it is a vehicle for my own advocacy as well as education. And Sally is just a charismatic, wonderful person. I'm super excited for you to hear from her. That being said, let's get this party started, and I'll turn the time over to Diane so that we can begin the presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Audrey. Welcome, everyone. We had such a great kickoff meeting in March, and we're so glad to see so many returning faces and new folks as well. I'm Diane, and I'm joined by my husband, Todd. We've been married for 31 years. We have 2 sons who are 20 and 25, a picture of them up in the left corner. We've lived in Orange County for the past 23 years, and we are in before that, we were in San Diego County and Rancho Bernardo for 4 years. And Todd and I met in college in San Luis Obispo, and we have family that still lives up in that area. So we, our roots run deep through this SoCal region. Todd was diagnosed the day after Christmas, 2017, quite out of the blue. And after getting tossed around for a bit, we thankfully listened to the guidance on the value of myeloma expert, and Todd started receiving treatment over 3 years ago on his 53rd birthday under the care of Dr. Amrita Krishnan at City of Hope. He had a stem cell transplant in June of 2018. That picture in the middle there is from that day. And with a few twists and turns along the way, he remains in complete remission or complete response. And we are living the good life. The surfing pictures are on the right are from a week or so ago with our 2 sons and our oldest son's girlfriend, and they're all big avid surfers. In addition to spending time with family, one of the things that gives us great joy is coaching and connecting with other myeloma patients. We aren't medical professionals. We're caregiver and patient who are committed to giving back by volunteering to support our myeloma community. So once again, we're glad you're here today, and we hope you can continue to participate every second Tuesday of the month. I'm going to turn it over to Todd to get us going on the agenda.
Thanks, Diane. Thanks, Audrey. Thanks for everybody joining. It's so nice to see faces and names and smiles. And let me tell you quickly what you can expect from our time together tonight. First, during the welcome section, we're going to do some quick polling. We'll take a quick look at some prevalence data and provide highlights of the Cure in 5 initiative. And then we'll have an interactive conversation and share some tips on how to build your best comprehensive care team. We'll hear from Roz, as you learn now. She's the director of the Myeloma Coach team, and hear from Sally on what the program has meant to her and other patients. And then we'll follow up on a discussion from our kickoff meeting regarding the current needs and best practices for patient caregiver education and connection, and get your feedback on a new proposed resource. And then finally, we'll share a community events calendar and wrap with an open forum and a virtual mingle. So if that sounds good, let's go ahead and find out a little bit more about who's on the line tonight via some polling questions. Audrey, do you want to help us with that?
Yes, so I'm just launching them right now. And do you have the slide one more time that shows them how to access the polling? I'm just realizing that might be helpful. I know you have to backtrack.
Well, I can even just walk you through it. You know
Yeah, I can walk them through it. Okay. So if you move your mouse to the top of the screen, you should see your own image on the very, very right, and then the time. And then you'll see a small icon that has a square and a circle and a triangle. If you hover over it, it says activities. If you click that button, you should see a new list, and one of those says polls. And we currently have 2 polls active. One of them, both of them are asking which county do you live in. We have to split it up into 2 because there are too many. They only allow us 10 options, and we have more than 10 counties being represented here. So if you can't access the polls, if you're on an iPad, mobile, or you just can't figure it out, answer in the chat, because that works as well. So hopefully that was.
And you need to vote in order to see the answers. Once you vote, then you'll start seeing the answers.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, we figured out that doesn't work on an iPhone or
yeah,
on the iPad. Russ, you had a question?
Do we need to answer? I voted in the first one, and then it doesn't move me to the next question, or does that?
Yeah, that's fine. Just leave. Time? It'll come up later.
Okay.
Thanks, Russ. And Danica, it's coming up on the next poll. Go ahead. Can we push up the next poll there?
If you scroll down, you should be able to see it. Yeah, got it. For poll 2 of 2.
Oh, I see. Scroll to the right there. Yeah. If you go to the far right, you can see that.
Yeah, so we have so far 6 in Orange County, 2 in Los Angeles, 2 in Riverside. I can't, I'm at a vote that I'm in San Diego, even though I'm not, or I'm gonna say other, just so that I can see otherwise we won't see 2 from Santa Barbara, 3 San Diego.
And Diana, I saw you that you're in Clark County, so very happy to have some folks from Southern Nevada join us as well, realizing that oftentimes that geography comes to Southern California for their myeloma care. All right, how about the next poll question?
All right, so the next poll question that we're going to be asking is along the lines of, do you have a myeloma coach or a mentor on your team? So we're just kind of wanting to know what the question is, if you have a myeloma coach or mentor. And I made sure to include I'm not sure, because if you don't know what we mean by myeloma coach or mentor, you are welcome to say I'm not sure as well.
Yeah, and not everyone maybe has a myeloma coach, but you may have a mentor that you look to too.
Yeah, Wes, did you want to say something? Or was that your hand up from before? Okay.
That one was from before.
No, it's all good. I can lower it for you right now.
There.
Thank you.
Darlene, did you have a question?
That was from before.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
It was an accident.
No, it's all good. I just would rather check with you than think I've already covered it.
All right.
Well, so we have, 12 votes for yes on that and 3 votes for no at this point on myeloma coaches or mentors.
It's going to be 4 votes for no too, because Linda did write in the chat that she does not have her own myeloma mentor.
All right, let's get to the last question.
All right, so our last question is, are you registered on the Health Tree Cure Hub database? And again, I put the I'm not sure in case you don't know what that is. That's also an option.
And Mike, I saw your question regarding do we have coaches in the San Diego area? And the answer is absolutely yes. And we can give you those names in just a minute. Or we will in a little bit. I don't have them off the top of my head who's in San Diego, but we do have some there.
I can do that, Todd.
Yep.
And Eloise brought up a good point that, you might be a coach, but you don't have a coach. And, I think that's something that Roz might bring up in her presentation is that dual need for both being coached and coaching.
Yeah, so currently we have 5 votes of yes, 3 votes of no, and 2 of I'm not sure. So by the time Roz finished, we'll all be sure.
Great. Oh, good. That helps us kind of get an idea on who's on the call. And I'm really glad to see that we have participants from across the Southern California and Nevada area. We've got, I think, about 30 something people on the line. And then plus there's about 40, 50 more that will get these slides after the fact. Just pulling everybody together, I think is a great opportunity just to learn from each other and to support each other. But to understand the potential power of this community, I think it's good to start by understanding how many people are on this journey with us. So I updated this slide from the kickoff meeting to include prevalence data. So let's start there on the far right of the screen. And you can see here that based on the CDC statistics, there were almost 125,000 people living with myeloma in the US in 2019. And if you break that out by our county census statistics, you get an estimate of the number of myeloma patients in each county. And that totals in our region over 9,000. And if I roll in Clark County and the fact that there's more people living in 2020 than in 2019 with myeloma, we're probably well over 10,000 myeloma patients in our geography. And if you use similar math, you can see that there are over 1,400 newly diagnosed in a year. And that just blows my mind that although it's a relatively rare cancer, there's still about 10,000 people in our immediate area that are living life with it. And, we're so cancer centers and support groups, but, despite the existence of at least 13 outstanding local groups, we still believe that a significant majority of patients are unfortunately not connected in a meaningful way. Maybe they just don't have the awareness or access or convenience or just general fit. But the bottom line is that whether you're newly diagnosed or you've been living with myeloma for 10 or 20 years or more, there are just real benefits for each of us as individuals and for a community to get really connected. And that slide just really shakes me to think that there's that many people going through this journey just like we are. And one of the significant benefits of this connected community is that together we can accelerate the arrival of curative strategies for myeloma. And that's really what the Cure in 5 initiative is all about. And you can read more about it in the link here because you'll get all these slides. So you'll have that link and it's active. And this meeting and the kickoff last month we're very focused on step 1, just building and growing the community. And in the future meetings, we'll focus on steps 2 through 5. We'll have a special guest for step 2 next month. So just please stay tuned and mark your calendars, and hopefully you can join us on the second Tuesdays of each month. So with that need to connect our community, let me just briefly show you this. I talked through this last time, so I'm not going to spend hardly any time at all. It's just our goal to just be an efficient, effective connector of those 10,000 patients, and really to just build awareness and impact of all groups, and to understand the local gaps, encourage new strategies. And we believe that cancer is a competition, and there's no place for competition between organizations or cancer centers or support groups. Just empower all patients and caregivers to use the best resources from all trustworthy sources for their best possible care and quality of life. So you'll get these slides. You can read more details on this charter if you choose. But let's get on to more of an interactive conversation. So the first step in that Cure in 5 is build and grow the myeloma community. And an important action in this step is building your own best comprehensive care team. And I think many of us can relate to how challenging that can be. So I borrowed a slide from one of my new friends, and he's joined and going to help us a bit in this discussion, and we'll keep it interactive with the whole group. But Jim O'Mell, Dr. Jim O'Mell, is a new friend and a new myeloma mentor of mine. He inspires me by his ability to live life to the fullest, despite his myeloma diagnosis over 23 years ago. I think you're the myeloma veteran perhaps on this call, Jim, and that was back in 1997. And I'm also inspired by just the decades of giving back that Jim has done as a patient advocate for the myeloma community. So in addition to everybody here from Southern California and a couple other folks far and wide, Jim, welcome, and thanks for all you have done for us and continue to do for us. And here's the slide I stole from you. So I'm going to set this up, and then we're going to have a interactive discussion. I like this graphic because it kind of points out many of the key roles that may be on your personal team and just how interconnected they are. And at the bottom, you see that you need players that are skilled individually, but really importantly, they have to be able to work well together, and especially during the crisis. And that's not always easy to pull this team together, but it's so, so important. And on the top, you can see that these 4 folks will serve as your most trusted source of information. They know about the science, and they also know what's important to you personally. And because they know both, they can be seen as your personal board of directors and your mentors. So let's consider first this question of who coordinates the care. And on the graphic, it shows me, not me personally, but me being you or everybody else, at the center. And I think the patient doesn't have to take all of that on themselves. It could be caregiver, an adult child, a close friend, whatever that team of that core team is. But I think we can all understand and appreciate that if you're an engaged, informed, empowered patient, caregiver, supporter team right at the center, you're best positioned to make sure that this team runs as smoothly and as effectively as possible. Right next to the patient, you see the myeloma specialist at diagnosis, at relapse, or periodically. It's just so helpful to have a true myeloma specialist on your team. There's good data from Mayo and from University of North Carolina that people that have a myeloma specialist on their team do actually live longer. They're able to quantify that benefit. And there's some good videos on Health Tree University, a 4.02 and 4.03, on the importance of getting a specialist and a second opinion. And then, of course, the myeloma specialist works closely with your local hematologist for ongoing monitoring of that plan and convenient local infusion services. I'm going to pause for a moment here, Jim, since this is your slide. I'm going to just stop for a moment. And if I can ask you, maybe unmute Jim's line if it's not already, but for any thoughts you have on the importance, Jim, of having a myeloma specialist on your team.
Hi, Todd. Can you hear me?
We can. Yeah. Thanks, Jim.
First of all, congratulations on your group. I'm really amazed at the numbers you have for your second outing. My support group has been in existence for 20 years. Of course, Nebraska is not quite as big as Southern California, but we still have a good active group. We have to meet virtually. You've presented this very well. With myeloma, you're not alone. You have a team. You have people that will help you. And each one of those gears represented there are essential. The myeloma specialist right beside the patient is where he or she should be. And what you said, Todd, is correct. Statistics show that when you have a specialist, when you have a myeloma specialist, better decisions are made and better outcomes result. People literally live longer when they have the input of someone who's up on what's new and what's important when it comes to new myeloma treatments. The nurses, even the specialty pharmacists are important. They're the ones who can help you get good funding for some of these expensive drugs. I think the caregiver gear should be certainly closer to the middle, but your caregiver certainly is a functional part of your team. This particular slide was one that I borrowed from one of my friends. It was during a presentation that was done in the past, but it really does represent the team that you need to assemble. And the cardiologist off to the right, certainly important with proteasome inhibitors such as carfilzomib, because it does have some cardiovascular effects. Internal medicine down at the bottom, as I mentioned when I gave this presentation, certainly a good family physician can serve that role. My life before myeloma was a family physician for 25 years, and we can certainly do what would be represented in these gears by an internal medicine doctor. But all of these are important, and I think your graphic, Todd, really does present things well the way you've got it lined out there.
Well, thanks, Jim, for your comments there and for sharing that with us too. I think that it is a good way to look at that team, and it is challenging to build it. I think the internist, we spend a lot of time talking about the myeloma specialist, but certainly the internist is an essential cog in that machine too. I see this person as the quarterback for all things not related to my cancer treatment, because I have an understanding with my internist that I plan to live with cancer and die from something else decades from now. So we meet every 3 to 6 months to make sure that we're on top of everything. And some of those other things, it's very easy to get all consumed with myeloma. But of course, with the arrival of great treatments, we expect a much a great quality of life for a long time. But you can't lose track of the other things there. And there's a whole comprehensive list of some of the subspecialists that might need to be added to your team. And then another key player could be a myeloma coach. So we're going to talk more about the myeloma coach program. But before we do that, let's open it up and open all the lines. And you can keep yourself on mute or unmute yourself when you want to speak up. But this is essential, but it is tricky. So maybe we can just open it up for just a couple of minutes and let folks chime in regarding any challenges or successes you've had in building this comprehensive team and maybe how they've worked together to support your best health. Anyone want to chime in?
I think I'll start off,
you can
actually, Todd.
You can always count on me to say something.
Involved. One of the nurses that really helped me initially was someone who explained how to buy my Revlimid. She was one of the oncologist nurses, and she got me set up with the Patient Access Foundation. There were ways to get that 20% of Medicare that doesn't pay covered, and specialty nurses can really be an important part of the team.
Yeah, I agree. Anyone else? Tom, did you have a comment?
Let's remember to use the raise hand feature to make sure that we don't have people talking over each other. But yeah, Tom can go now, but let's use the raise hand feature, I think.
Sure, I raised my hand. I've never used Google Meet. No, I was going to say I have obviously a very different role now that Rob passed away in November, and I'm spending 15 hours a week as what is called a patient navigator. And I think one of the things that I've come to realize over the course of the past several years, having been involved with the various myeloma groups and whatever, is that there are a lot of patients that are just too sick to participate in their own care. And since at this point, being a navigator at Eisenhower here in Rancho Mirage, I found, you have to select where you're going to go, and I'm just sort of blown away at the number of people who see the slide like what you're showing, Todd, but just have no ability to execute on it. They don't have anyone. They don't have any real advocate. They don't have anybody, and it's an interesting it's an interesting thing, because you can sit with a group like what we have tonight and talk people through the process of becoming an advocate for themselves. But if they're too sick to do that, honestly, somebody else has to be there to do it for them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you're serving in that role. I think one other thing.
I think I am too still.
You got a good heart and you give back, and it's awesome. I think one of the things that is interesting to me on this point is, again, the fact that these gears are all connected speaks to the need for some kind of integrated medical record and a way to keep track of all of the components. And I think we're not spending time on it much today, but that is one of the benefits of HealthTree and the Cure Hub, being able to get your data in there. And one of the reports is a really easy to use view of your myeloma treatment history and success and side effects and everything else. And that could be helpful not only for your hematologist or your myeloma specialist, but also for your internist, for your nursing team, et cetera. So that is one way to help enhance the interconnectivity and success of this team, and getting everybody up to speed before there's a crisis. So I know somebody asked for a larger view of this slide. You're going to get all of these slides, and we can continue that discussion a little bit later too, during some more open forum time.
I tried to give a little bit of instruction, so hopefully it made sense. There was a question in the chat. Can you share the importance of a cardiologist's role? So I'd love to hear, obviously, Todd, if you have any comments, but also if anybody in the crowd has comments that they want to share about the importance of a cardiologist's role.
Well, certainly, Kyprolis is one that people think about, a little bit different profile than Velcade, but other comments that anybody has regarding cardiologists? There's a whole host of subspecialists that might need to be included in your team, whether it's a nephrologist for kidney or a neurologist for pain or neuropathy, or dermatologist is somebody that should be on your team as well for ongoing skin checks, or
orthopedic surgeon.
An orthopedic surgeon. Yep. A whole host of folks like that. Depending upon your specific risk profile and things, you may need to have somebody that's paying a little bit more attention to your cardiac health.
Yeah, I think we can also put in the chat too if we have anything. Russ, did you have something that you wanted to share?
Well, I'm looking at this, and I guess I have maybe 3 of the 6 of the big blue gears, but I feel like I'm just following crumbs that I need to go to kind of go to the next step, and I don't know if I have a team. I know I've maybe touched a few of these people, but I don't know if they're, some you've kind of, you've utilized their services, and then you kind of move on, and then maybe someone else fills that role. I mean, the myeloma specialist, is that the bone marrow transplant person, or is that a separate person from that? The hematologist, it's a little bit confusing to me. Like, I don't know where I'm at actually in the whole scheme of this. I have a fantastic caregiver, and I've had some wonderful nurses, but I've and I've got an okay insurance company that I get to deal with. But so yeah, I'm a little bit like, oh, I don't really have a real team. I have people that I've used along the journey, but I don't know if I have a team of people that are like in my pocket.
I think the people that are closer to that hub, that the me in the center, are probably essential, super essential in that team as you're starting to build it, kind of working out from you being in the center. The myeloma specialist is not somebody that has to be seen on a regular basis. It can be at early in your diagnosis. It can be at pivotal points along the road, perhaps at relapse or pre-post transplant. But that person can work closely with that local hematologist to kind of set the plan and then have the local heme implement the plan. I would say that one thing that as you build it over time, I know from knowing you, Russ, you're earlier in your journey. And I think that the idea is to try and build this over time before it's a crisis. So when I work with my internists, I just had a little bit of so I thought something wasn't quite right cardiac wise last year. It was probably COVID related stress. I said, hey, I want a referral to the cardiologist. And they did. And I just met my local cardiologist that my internist trusts. And we went in and said, I'm not terribly concerned about anything, but I do have myeloma and I plan to die from something else a long time from now. So I want a cardiologist on my team and we're starting a relationship now. And he said, that's awesome. And it's kind of just that idea of thinking about how do you build this over time. But I think you do start with building that caregiver support in the center, like you said. Consulting a myeloma specialist has proven benefits, and making sure that the specialist and the local heme in particular are working really, really closely together.
And then set up a binder and just keep records and chronological at first probably, and then as they build it out, there's certain things you can get rid of, but certain things that you'll want to keep, and that binder goes with us everywhere.
Yep. Audrey, I'm not sure.
Thanks.
I can't see the hands raised, but
maybe Marcia has.
Hi, my name is Marcia Holman. I'm an Orange County patient.
Yeah.
I've had multiple myeloma for 20 years, 19 years in remission, along with a lot of other health problems. I'm also a registered nurse. And so I come with a host of knowledge that I've been lucky enough to be part of groups and like coaches and be able to speak to large groups about my journey. But one thing, I go to City of Hope, and that's my second home for the 20 years. And having a comprehensive cancer center where everything is right there is really nice. You have the pain control doctor, you have kidney, you have ortho, you have internist, you have everybody, cardiology, pulmonary, you have the whole works right in one facility, so that if something comes up, you have your doctors right there. And your charts, everybody knows what your journey has been, so it makes it really nice. But a lot of people don't have that, and they have to draw from cross town is my cardiologist, or who do I see for my kidney doctors, and you do want specialists when you have multiple myeloma, because it's important that they are aware. Some doctors aren't. So you need to have doctors that know multiple myeloma, and especially have a multiple myeloma specialist that is close to the changing of all the information coming out, the new medications, the treatment plans, the new clinical trials, so that's important.
I agree. Thanks, Marcia.
Uh-huh.
And Marcia is also a coach. too, as you mentioned. So that's probably a great segue for us to talk a little bit about the coach program and introduce Roz.
Perfect. Todd, tell me what time I need to wrap this up, and I'll keep us on track here.
We are about 7 minutes behind or so.
Okay.
But you have your
but
10
just
minutes.
go. We'll make it work.
We'll work.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Todd and Diane for inviting me to join you tonight. And thanks to all of you for being here, excited about this new chapter and just all of the excitement and everything that you bring, excited to see many myeloma coaches in the chapter. So we have 17 coaches in the Southern California and Las Vegas area. 11 of those are very active and engaged, and we would love to have more. So we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. The goal tonight, I want to tell you a little bit more about the coach program, how to find or become a coach, and then we'll also let you hear from one of our coaches, Sally, about what led her to become a coach. As Todd mentioned earlier, one of the goals of the SoCal region is to have coaches in each county and at each cancer center, so that coaches can serve as those ambassadors for the local cancer center and really those connectors, connecting everyone within the myeloma community there. Kind of as Marcia was talking, I was thinking, not everyone can go to City of Hope and have that coordination. Everyone has different insurance, and you're having to, that oftentimes dictates where you go. And so to have someone that could be that ambassador that could help you navigate that system is a huge resource. So those are some things we're talking about and things that coaches could help with. So who are myeloma coaches? Coaches are either myeloma patient or caregiver who want to give back. I'm just inspired as coaches register and they're in the thick of it. They're caregiving or they're a patient themselves that is still in treatment, and they're grateful for what they've learned, and they just instantly want to turn around and help someone else. And it really has been inspiring to me just to see that compassion and desire to instantly turn around and say, I learned this and I want to share it with someone else to make their path easier. We ask for the coaches to be willing to volunteer for at least 8 hours a month, up to a year. Just 1 second, I just realized my computer is going to die. There we go. 8 hours a month for up to a year, commitment for some consistency. We provide training, so there's initial orientation and training that happens, and that's all online. So you can complete that from your own home whenever works for you. We also have ongoing training each quarter. We have guest speakers on a variety of topics we bring in. We have 2 semi-annual coach calls where we have myeloma specialists come and speak, as well as pharmaceutical representatives to update us on the most recent medications and approvals. And we also have monthly support where I host monthly meetings for the coaches where they can come together, they support one another, they meet, connect, share resources with each other, kind of best practices, as I say, of what's working for them. If they have any challenging situations, they can bring those to the group to come up with ideas and to work together. And really, they just become friends. And that's what I love seeing as well. It's just a really tight-knit group. The coaches who are engaged and active, we invite them to participate in an annual summit, and we hold this summit in Park City, Utah, where everyone gathers in person, and we have a more targeted training, focus group work, and also receive education from myeloma specialists and experts that come and join us there. So that's a great opportunity.
Looking forward to that in July. That's going to be awesome.
In July, in the summer, when it's nice and beautiful. So what's a successful coach? A successful coach has the desire to learn and to educate themselves. And I really see this as a win-win, because as a myeloma patient and caregiver, any education you receive just helps you to be able to make better decisions. And then as a coach, you're able to turn around and share that information with those that you coach. A successful coach also has a desire to engage with others and to share about the coach program, whether it's with other patients that you meet in the clinic, with your providers, with nurses. You're just actively engaged with others that are seeking support. A successful coach also has the ability to listen, to listen intently and to be able to identify individual needs, and then to share resources and personal experience that can help meet that need. Experience and understanding with, as we mentioned, specific treatment centers, share your knowledge and ability to build an extended care team, and most importantly, to share encouragement. And to me, the most important thing is to share hope, and that really makes a difference. That all of those things in turn, really, I watch it empower individuals to be able to continue to educate themselves, to ask questions, to advocate for themselves or their loved one, and ultimately to live fully with myeloma. Let's see, next slide. So how do you find or become a coach? Our program is all through our website online, and we've shared our website there. And how it works is someone that's interested in becoming a coach creates a profile. And in their profile, they share their location, city and state, a photo of themselves, areas they have experience. So these could be things such as experience in physical health, nutrition, exercise, mental or emotional health, experience with financial resources or health insurance issues, experience with stem cell transplant, clinical trials, things like that. And then they also share a little bit about their myeloma story, and that personalizes their profile so that those looking for a coach can kind of get to know them. Then these profiles are shared on our website. So individuals who are interested in working with a coach, after they register, then they can go in and view all of these profiles and search by areas of experience and that they're needing, that they have questions in, and they can select a coach that they feel is the best fit for them. That's something that sets us apart. We don't assign coaches. Individuals get to choose their own coach, so it's personalized and someone that they feel is a good match for them. Another thing that sets us apart is we allow individuals to work with more than one coach. So each coach comes with such a variety of experience that they've gained through their own journey. And so individuals can work with more than one coach depending on what areas they have questions in, or what would be most helpful for them, and to gain different perspectives. Once that connection's established, then the relationship is determined between the coach and the individual as far as how they'll connect, whether it's on the phone, in person, through email, video chat, and then how often. Sometimes someone may just have some questions and seek out a coach several times to just help them along the path wherever they're at. Other times maybe it's consistent where it's, I know Diane has people that she talks to. She has a woman she talks to every Sunday. They've just established that, and that works for Diane. She's willing to do that, and that's what that person needs. And so it's just kind of this give and take, and that can be established with both people as far as what works for them, with how often they need or want to communicate, and like I said, those preferences for communication. And oftentimes we see, and I get feedback, that individuals become friends, and then they carry on from there, and they have a friendship that they've established, and no longer coaching, but they just keep in touch as friends. So it really varies, and it's across the board, and it's just completely dependent on the need that's there. This is kind of just a brief overview, and I feel like I'm talking fast. So just wanting to give you kind of an understanding of how it works. At the end, if there's more specific questions, I'm happy to give an overview of the website, so you can look at that and see more specifically how it works. But I think, in my opinion, it would be most helpful to actually hear from one of our myeloma coaches. So as we mentioned at the beginning, Sally Torgerson is willing to share her experience with coaching and what led her to volunteer with the program. So I'll turn the mic to you, Sally.
Going between Google and Zoom is getting confusing. Anyway, I have to get to where I was going. Audrey gave you a very brief description of how I learned I had multiple myeloma. I had never heard of it before, as most of you have not, and it came out of the blue. But I'm basically a planner and needed to know as much as I could about what I was going to go through. So I wanted to know what the disease was and what it was like. And, all I knew was was a stem cell transplant because my 8-year-old cousin has ALL, and he had to go through both an auto and an allo stem cell transplant because he was much sicker than I was. Primarily, I became a coach because I had no one to help me understand what was going on. My husband died approximately 20 years ago, and I live alone. My family is all in Indiana or Ireland, and I had a lot of questions. There's no support group in Santa Barbara. Everyone said, don't ask Dr. Google. Well, if not Dr. Google, who was I going to ask? So I started out with the research library of our new cancer center up here and got to start learning the terms and the drugs and the history. And now and then, don't judge me, I went to Facebook, to some of the myeloma sites, and found several, including the Myeloma Crowd, and then HealthTree. HealthTree actually answered more of the questions than that I knew that I had. Then I realized that so many of the answers on Facebook for patients and caregiver questions were pure fantasy or just plain misinformation and dangerous. It made me crazy. Patients need to get a specialist. They need to know that multiple myeloma is not an immediate death sentence. They need to know that it's treatable, and a stem cell transplant doesn't hurt. It's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, but it can save your life. And that eating superfoods alone or rubbing garlic on your back is not going to cure multiple myeloma. I researched all the immunotherapy drugs, new and old, compared modes of operation, how they worked, and on what, looked at stem cell transplants, CAR T, BITE, and the new BCMA procedures. I felt like I was back in an advanced genetics class in college, but I felt I couldn't help someone if I didn't understand it myself. I read about the Myeloma Crowd coach program and decided to see what I could do to help. Contacted Roz, and who better to tell a newly diagnosed patient about multiple myeloma than someone who's been in their shoes. I have made lists of caregiver instructions, what to pack for a stem cell transplant as an inpatient or outpatient, how to get your house ready for your return with and without pets, what can you eat and how to prepare it, even washing avocados, which was really new to me. I didn't wash avocados before. And many of the things a doctor isn't prepared to help you with. I signed up to be a coach, and at the end of 2019, and has become one of the most satisfying times I've had spent during the COVID shutdown. I've learned more from my patients as I've helped them, and I've hoped they've learned from me. As an example, after talking Zoom meetings weekly with one of my patients who was told she could not have a stem cell transplant by her oncologist and didn't feel comfortable about getting a specialist because it would hurt her doctor's feelings, to come back after I'd found her a specialist 90 miles away. She says, in 4 weeks, I've been on RVD. Both my IgA and lambda light chains dramatically moved from extreme high numbers to barely just above the normal range. I could not be happier. On top of that, my oncologist went into a discussion of a stem cell transplant, saying I could talk further with the doctor about this as it would be done at the University of Michigan. I previously understood that I was not a candidate for that. The day ended with my daughter texting me that she wanted to raise money for a charity on her birthday, and she chose the Myeloma Crowd. It's reasons like this and others is why I've become a coach. That's it. And the one thing I wanted to say is that when people choose a coach, they don't have to be in the same state or the county. I'm actually coaching someone in Tennessee, Nebraska, Michigan, and 2 in Southern California. So, and I love it. I love sharing. I, work both on Zoom and email. That's one of the things that COVID has helped with us in coaching is Zoom.
That's
or
true.
Google.
Those are very good points. Thank you, Sally, for bringing that up too. And I thank you, Sally. I learned so much from you. I learned so much from Sally and from all of the individuals that I'm just blessed to associate with through this program. And it really is, it goes both ways. The individuals who are receiving the coaching are so grateful and they receive so much, but the coaches receive so much. That's what I hear. They're blessed by their ability to share and give back, and just the relationships that are made and associations truly just turn into blessings. And I love getting to see it and witness it.
And one of the things that you mentioned, or Todd mentioned, that several of us coaches have patients in common. Recently, Diane here in Southern California and Amy Gephardt in Tennessee and I are all working with the same patient. It's a difficult patient, but we each have a different aspect of what this person needs. It happens to be my age is what they need. They need to know that at 76 years old, you can live a full and complete life. And a stem cell transplant is not a horrible experience. And then we also put the caveat on, everyone is different.
Right. And those very perspectives are helpful, right? And it takes a village. And so it's nice to see that village come together and for people to say, well, I don't have that answer, but I know someone who does, and everyone works together. It's really, I use the word a lot, but it's inspiring. It really does inspire me. So I just love hearing Sally's story, and it's like many coaches could speak to that are on the call today. And now it's your turn. So if you are interested in sharing your experience and knowledge with others, then I would call you to act. So we're seeking 5 to 10 additional myeloma coaches in the Southern California region, especially those that live in LA County, Inland Empire, or receive treatment at Cedars-Sinai or at Kaiser. So we're wanting to expand that extension of support, as Todd mentioned, and those numbers he showed at the beginning of the need that's there. Sally recently sent me an email, and it stuck with me. She told me how grateful she is that she became a coach, but at the same time, how did you say it, Sally? She loves it and hates it. She loves it because of what she's learning and the associations she's making, but she hates that the thought to know that there's so many more out there that need this support that don't have it. And isn't that true? And so that's where we're working to extend that reach. So having additional coaches would help us extend reach to individuals who need support in those areas, and work towards what Todd described as having a highly connected myeloma community. As we've talked tonight, individuals who are connected are likely more educated, and that impacts their ability to make treatment decisions, and ultimately it impacts their outcomes. So Todd provided those statistics, like I said, for individuals living with myeloma in the Southern California area, and 11 active coaches aren't enough to provide support, resources, or encouragement. So if you're interested, we would love to have you join our team. You can comment in the chat box, and I'd love to talk more with you. You can be an ambassador for your local cancer center and be a connector within the local myeloma community. So I firmly believe that one by one, we can make a difference as we join together. I have a favorite quote from Helen Keller. She says, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." And I think that's true. Together we really can do so much. And this program helps people one by one, but as we all gather together, we can really make a significant difference. So if you're interested in becoming a coach, like I said, you can let me know in the chat box. I'll get to you, or you can email me directly. Audrey has my information there. You can call. However you want to do it. I'd love to talk more about it. I'd love to answer any questions that you have, and see if it would be a good fit for you.
Thank you, Roz. Thank you, Sally. I couldn't agree with you more about it being win-win. And I know we have a number of coaches on the call tonight, and I think everybody has their stories around how rewarding and educating and just overall awesome it is to be a coach, not only personally, but for the people that you get to work with. So, and we do see that having coaches in all of the different counties and in all the different key centers could really be very helpful in closing that gap and getting more people connected, not only to be helpful for those individuals, but to be ambassadors, like Roz said, for your local center, just helping people understand how to navigate life. Like the question from Russ, if I live in Orange County, how do I find the right subspecialist, or, just local tips? And I think coaches can provide very valuable resources in just how to live life with myeloma. So thanks. If folks are willing to step up, we'd love to have more in the program. I think, when you're thinking about that 10,000 people or so in our area and maybe 20% are connected, one of the other ways to grow the community and connect people is through the Health Tree Cure Hub. And right now there are about 384 patients registered throughout the Southern California area. And on the right, I'm not going to go through this because you can see it, but you can see all the benefits back to the patient. I did speak to it a little bit before, but this is really a terrific program. And even when you're logging in, you might have heard Paul and Jenny's comments regarding the benefits of the Health Tree Cure Hub. So we'll talk more about that in an upcoming meeting, but I would highly encourage you to go on to Health Tree and check it out. Another way to connect the SoCal group is by building awareness and encouraging all myeloma patients and caregivers to connect with 3 of the leading myeloma organizations, Health Tree and Myeloma Crowd, as we're here today and tonight, the IMF and the MMRF. And I think everybody remembers that day that you were diagnosed, but do you remember what information you got from your doctor or your care team, and trying to reflect back on, was it helpful? Was it comprehensive, but not too much? And then do you get information on an ongoing basis directly from your doctor or from your nurses that helps you stay on top of the latest myeloma news and events? And I suspect if you think about that, you may not get as much information as you might necessarily want directly from your doctor, either at diagnosis or on an ongoing basis. So we talked about this at the kickoff meeting, and we recognized a significant need. And Jackie Sarlett, our Orange County IMF support group leader and also a coach, suggested the need for just a simple resource that directs people to the 3 major trusted myeloma support groups. And again, the idea is that if patients get connected to all 3, they'll be informed at all stages of their myeloma journey. So Diane created this resource and that you see on your screen, and I presented it to Dr. Krishnan at City of Hope and Carrie O'Neill, who's the nurse leader at City of Hope Orange County. And their response was yes. They said, yeah, there's a need, and yes, they like the content. So we started a pilot at City of Hope in Newport, and the nursing team is giving this out to newly diagnosed patients and others in the infusion center, and hopefully we can expand that to the Duarte campus as well. And we're going to send you a PDF version of this resource if you want to consider using it within your group. So maybe we can take a moment and have a conversation regarding whether or not you think this might be a helpful resource. Maybe you raise your hand.
I got nothing from my doctor's office when I got multiple myeloma. I actually, in many cases, have told my doctor what some of these things are. Yet he's the one, he basically gave me a choice of going to the City of Hope, UCLA, or Cedars, I guess. And I researched those myself, and I picked City of Hope and Dr. Krishnan. And I think this is an excellent thing. I think they're afraid of multiple myeloma at my cancer center because I've given them my cards, I've given them information, and although they're very, very nice, they don't know how to handle it because my doctor actually did say he sees less than 5 a year of multiple myeloma. And, but I think this would be great, and I'll take it into them, I'll print them up and get them out. I think it's great.
We have
the hands raised, or I can't see the hands raised.
So we have Russ, his hand is raised. I'm not sure if that's from before, so I can lower that, Russ. And then we have Tom. Tom, if you want to go ahead, and then Marcia will follow him.
Sure. The one thing that I would say, Todd, and I don't know whether they've said this to you, we are still here in this infusion center. The nurses are not allowed to give out a paper thing and whatever. So we actually are trying to put together some sort of an electronic something that can be given out, an electronic flyer, something along those lines. I think that this is still an issue. I think it's still an issue at UCSD. They're just not allowing the nurses in the infusion center to hand out anything in paper form.
Well, and we're going to send this via PDF. So if people want to just, if they have the channels to communicate directly with patients via an electronic approach, that's certainly fine. I think the thought is that it's still shocking to me how long it takes people to find these organizations that can provide such valuable information and connectivity. And we wanted to close that gap. And it's as simple as just telling people to log into these 3. And if they want to list out some others that, the local center feels are trustworthy and are highly recommended, they can include that information as well. But there's oftentimes a little bit of competition, I think, between organizations, and people don't want to talk about all 3 in the same sentence. And it's like, no, really, to get the best education, and you really need to draw from a variety of trustworthy sources. And that's why we thought we would try and move forward with something simple and comprehensive enough, but not overwhelming.
Marcia, go ahead. You're muted, Marcia. Whoops, she left accidentally.
She'll come back.
I'm sure she'll come back. I did want to say, I think one of the key points of this PDF is it doesn't come from Myeloma Crowd. It's not coming from IMF. It's not coming from MMRF. It's coming from patients. Diane and Todd literally created this themselves. And kind of what Todd was saying earlier, our mission is not to compete with other myeloma organizations. Our mission is to help myeloma patients. And I think that can be said of all of the myeloma organizations. And we just want to help. So hopefully, we can use this as a way to help the next generation of myeloma patients who are scared.
Jackie has a question.
Yeah, Jackie's welcome to speak.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I got kicked out for a while, so I'm back. I'm wondering, Todd, maybe you can answer this question, is out of all those people that have been diagnosed, has it been at Hem/Onc offices? Because if the majority are coming from there, would then the focus need to be with this pamphlet or PDF at those offices, as opposed to the medical centers where, people are already in treatment?
Yeah, I think we need to have a conversation regarding what are the strategies to get these people connected. And it could be the Hem/Onc office. It could be the academic center. It could be through, I think the myeloma coaches, there's 11 of us, and all the people on here, you probably, if you're well into your journey, you've got your own little myeloma circle of friends, and you just kind of make it grow organically to help people understand how to get other patients connected. But you're right, the Hem/Onc offices in general, I think, need to have it as well. And even general oncologists as well, if they're seeing a large number of patients in maybe a little bit more rural community.
So statistically, do you know where or how patients, all those, like there's 32,000 patients across the US, are there any charts on, where they get diagnosed or how?
I don't know. This is a good question. And it's another good question to build on your good question from the kickoff meeting that was the genesis of this project. Right. So maybe we can, why don't we put our heads together and think about that and maybe look up some of the statistics on, where these people are and how best to get to them.
And I know Todd was diagnosed, indirectly, but through his orthopedic surgeon. And I believe Sally was the same way, and they're going to be even less likely to have helpful information.
Exactly.
I think one thing though that we all see a hem-onc, maybe it's a local hematologist or oncologist or one of the academic medical centers. So there are some things that, if you agree that there's a need, there's a couple things that you can do. You can get connected personally to all three organizations if you aren't already, and then encourage others in your little myeloma circle to get connected. But if you're ready to make like a bigger impact, you could have a conversation with your doctor, with your nurse or the cancer center, and ask them these questions. The simple questions that are on this slide is just, how do you educate your patients, and what resources and guidance do you give them? And when you have that conversation, they might say, oh yeah, I tell them about this program, or I hand them this IMF Basics Myeloma brochure. But asking them really, who's doing it, and what are you giving them, and where, and how often, and how consistently, just to kind of have a conversation with them around, are you really educating your patients as much as you think that you are? And then when I start to recognize that there's probably a bit of a gap, then you could propose that, well, would something like this as a resource be helpful, and give it a shot. So I think that most oncologists do recognize the value of an educated patient, and anything that they can do to get them more fully connected and informed makes for a better conversation, interaction, and outcome. But that's just something to throw out there, and we'll bring this up. And if people are willing to give it a shot, we'd love to talk about it at a future meeting and see what kind of progress we can make towards connecting the community. So why don't we transition, Diane, over to, again, the goal is to kind of make everybody aware and amplify all the work that's going on across our community. So Diane, can you kind of walk us through a little bit of a community calendar?
Sure. So these are the events that are on the Myeloma Crowd website, and I put the link in. When you get the website, or get the slides, there'll be active links that you can go. I highly recommend you look on the events page, and there's a variety of chapters covering a variety of topics. If you join the chapter, if you click on the chapter and you can join the chapter, then you'll get email updates on the various topics. So if something really seems interesting to you, you can also join something that you don't have to join the actual chapter. You can register and go to just the event. For example, the newly diagnosed, you may be further along and not really consider yourself newly diagnosed, but be interested in bone hardeners and dental health. And so April 15th, that's right up there at the beginning. So I'm not going to go through all these. We're going to make up some time here, but you can see a variety of events that are happening. These are just in April. And then Todd, you want to go to the next slide?
You bet.
These are the May ones, and this will grow over the next week or two. You'll see even more. So again, there's a group for pretty much everyone in this, and a lot of cross promotion between things. Todd, next one. The IMF, the International Myeloma Foundation, that you can see the SoCal local support groups. We have Jackie on here who runs the OC one. I know there's a great one in San Diego. There's multiple ones that cover the Southern California region. So I strongly encourage you to click on that link. I know in the next one, I believe Jackie is, you're having, losing my mind here. I lost my name. Brian
Spark Cures.
Spark Cures, right? And then you have Brian coming up after that. So that's a great resource to look for the support groups. And you also see under IMF the patient and family webinar, The Future is Looking Bright for Myeloma Patients. That's a 2.5, a little early morning on that one, but a great, I'm sure, encouraging event. Under the MMRF, they have a big Facebook really cross promote all these different organizations because they all offer great programs for us. And then Todd, next. These are some ongoing community opportunities, so not necessarily events, but ongoing things. You can read through those and look. There's some great opportunities, and also a replay of the nutrition and wellness chapter. She did just a fabulous job, Dr. Shaw. So I highly recommend that also. Keep going. I'm making up for last time. And then our next meeting is May 11th. And again, like Todd said, we're going to focus on the educate and empower. And we have a exciting guest speaker that we're getting set up for that. So watch your emails for that and keep looking on that Myeloma community chapter events. But you can set yours up to a reoccurring meeting the second Tuesday of every month from 6:30 to 8. And that covers, I think, where I'm going. Back to you, Todd.
So at this point, thanks, Diane, for that. There's some great stuff. And like I said, our goal with this chapter is not to be the provider of all this clinical content, because as you can see from that slide, there are so many opportunities to log on all the time to hear from experts from around the country, and some great ones coming up in April and May. I know Diane and I will be joining. But we wanted to open the line here too, because Jackie, we already mentioned some of the stuff coming up at the OC support group, but if there are other local or national events or cool things happening at your cancer center, whether it's at Moore's Cancer Center or UCLA or Cedars or with Dr. Berenson or, wherever, if there's anything that you want to share to the group so that people are aware, if you're not in that local county, you might think that there's something cool happening in LA, even though I'm in San Diego, so this is a chance for us to really just open up over the next few minutes and share anything that, is breaking news as far as cool events or trials that you might be aware of or things like that you want people to know about. So we can do the hand raising, and Audrey, you can help us call on people and get some of that news out there.
Don't see anybody yet, so.
Okay.
And I know Marcia had her hand raised and then went away. I don't know if she had something she wanted to follow back on. We can circle back to that also.
I know one of the recent updates, of course, is the approval of the first commercially approved CAR T treatment. I did just go in on their website, and it looks as though Cedars, UCLA, Mayo in Scottsdale, Stanford, City of Hope wasn't on that list. I have asked them, are you going to be doing that commercially available CAR T or not? But that is probably one of the most significant recent news items on the clinical front. So I think Sally had a hand raised. Anyone else?
I just thought that, and if I'm embarrassing anybody, I hope I don't. But we've been talking about coaches. How about talking to a patient who has a coach on this site? Yeah. Mary, do you want to say anything? She's muted.
Todd, do you want to
just unmute Mary
so we can see everyone?
Yeah, there she is.
It's great having a coach. Sally's been really helpful, and she's kind of given me a little push when I needed to do something, and I was reluctant, and she's been a wealth of information, and I couldn't be happier with my coach. And that's my parent. So I'll shut up.
We love you, Mary. We're glad you're a part of our community. It's good to see you here. And Sally is a great coach, so we're glad to have her. I was going to actually mention that too. We talked a lot about signing up to be a coach, but some people aren't at that level yet. And so if you want to sign up to be coached, that's just as important, that we get people as educated and as empowered as possible. And as was mentioned, we're going to be talking about that next month, is how to educate yourself, how to empower yourself as a patient. And I think one of those key points is to be coached as well as coach, if you feel comfortable.
I would agree with that, Audrey. And I just think the goal is just the connections, right? That the connections are being made one-to-one, the connections are being made through these chapters, and that we're just all being connected in this community and strengthening one another and empowering one another. Couldn't agree more.
Anyone else have?
Marcia is back online. So Marcia, do you want to say anything?
Hi. I just thought it was a great idea having that flyer, and I hope that Doherty gets it going down there. I had asked at our Orange County chapter that I could get it emailed to me, But if you're posting it, that would be great. I'll put it on our Facebook page.
Awesome. You'll get it tomorrow. You'll get it tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Russ, did you want to say something?
Oh, I just wanted to say, being pretty new to the group, but I got the 2-for-1 with Todd and Diane up there, and just very fortunate. They helped me point me in the direction of City of Hope, which has been, I start my main testing tomorrow and kind of workups to getting my bone marrow transplant. So very excited and thankful for their guidance and helping get me in the door with Dr. Krishnan. And so, yeah, I mean, great start. I highly recommend, if you don't have a coach, to find somebody. They're fantastic. They really do get you going in a good direction early on. So thank you, you guys. Appreciate it.
And that was mutually beneficial. I tell you, nobody wants to be in the myeloma club, but one of the blessings and the silver linings is the people you meet. And you're one of those folks, Russ.
Right.
Thank you. Must have been our Hawaii connection.
Yeah, right on. Aloha. Hang loose, brother.
All right. I think that's everyone if we want to move on.
All right. Let me just turn this back on real quick. And then we'll go here. And last click.
If you could see Todd's office and the way he has it set up, he looks like he's landing airplanes up there as far as the air traffic controller for how many computer monitors and things he has set up. But
he is dedicated. That's what we can say.
Well, I think that's, we're just wrapping this thing up here. If you got questions or feedback, send it over to Audrey or to Diane and to me. And I know, Audrey, you want to thank these folks for all their support.
Yeah, I was going to say we're also sending a survey along with the slides and the recording to your email. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. It will be coming from my email, audrey@helptree.org. A special thanks to our community event sponsors. Again, we couldn't do this without them. Bristol Myers Squibb, Amgen Oncology, Karyopharm Therapeutics, AbbVie Adaptive Biotechnologies, Genentech, Oncopeptides, and Takeda Oncology. And just a big thank you for you spending the time with us. I know it's late, and I just appreciate the Kennedys for working so hard, Roz, Sally for participating, and Mary as well for the impromptu sharing, and Jackie for what you were able to share as well. Just everyone who participated. It means a lot to us to grow and build this community together through this SoCal Myeloma chapter. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everybody.